You're the center of my joy. My joy. That funny as shit, bro. That's the only time them ever go to church is when it's election season. Yo, when y'all gonna stop playing with Jesus, man? Yeah, that big old ring on that. That's a nice ring you got too, boy. How'd you get that ring? Taxpaying dollars. Yeah, stealing ass. My joy. Why you had to shake your head like that? You start shaking your chin. You think you can sing for real? Nah. Talking about you the only black governor, only black this. Boy, you are a Jamaican Ninja Turtle. Never forget that. When y'all gonna stop playing with Jesus? The Church of God in Christ been holding it down. Bishop Wooten is the only bishop that I know that's not letting no Jamaican Ninja Turtle come up in his church and disrespect Jesus like that, man. Get to singing Richard Smalley. How dare you? Then you want to shake your head with a little bald head ass bitch.
We got to talk about this Sambo Baldy of the East. Sambo Baldy of the East with the high booty.
And I think about it in the case of like my grandfather, where my grandfather was actually the first one on my mom's side of the family born in this country. He was born in Charleston, South Carolina, but he wasn't raised here. And the reason was because when he was just a toddler, the Ku Klux Klan ran him and the rest of my family out of this country. Not just out of Charleston, South Carolina, because my great-grandfather was a minister, and he's a very vocal minister. And eventually the verbal threats became physical ones, and he picked up his family in the middle of the night and he left this country. And the majority of my family, you know, they vowed to never come back here, and they didn't. My grandfather did. My grandfather was the only one who came back to the United States and started his family here with my great-grandmother, who's actually from Cuba, and they came to the South Bronx, where he was a minister, the first black minister in the history of the Dutch Reformed Church. My grandmother was a school teacher in the South Bronx for almost 30 years. And I think about it in context of this, where this was a man who was forced out of this country when he was just a child. Some of his earliest memories were America's ugliest moments.
Oh, my God. These people are psychopaths. These people are psychopaths. And let me ask you all, did you think he was reading it? It looked like he was reading this. Nicole, all right, let's talk about why this has become debunked, really. Nicole, you want to share? Or I can go.
Listen, the Free Beacon, you know, if you ever wanted great reporting, the Free Beacon is outstanding. Those reporters are like pit bulls with a greasy pork chop bone. They don't let go of nothing. You know, once they get assigned a story, it's on and popping. So, you know, churches keep records, very, very good records, and all of it is a lie. There was no Ku Klux Klan in the town where he says all of this happened. You know, a very popular preacher passed away in, I think it was Jamaica.
Right.
And because that popular preacher passed away, they needed a new preacher. And so they tapped his great-grandfather to be that preacher. So he didn't leave America running from the Klan. Nobody was after him. He packed up his family and went to the islands for a job, a permanent position. So all of this, like everything else about Wes Moore, is an absolute lie. Absolute lie. I don't even think his name is Wes. What's his real name? You know, somebody take a picture of him, put it in chat GPT and see who he really is. At this point, everything this man has said to voters is a lie. However, liberals love him. They love some Sheen Obama. This is who he is. This dude is almost as fake as Hakeem Jeffries. Almost. Right? Real close.
And another thing is where the town where he claimed this occurred, apparently they were the local white community held this church where his grandfather preached in high regard. You know, according to a 1924 report by a prominent Episcopal bishop in South Carolina. I mean, this guy, wow.
Lies about lies, which is going to be interesting because he's having, allegedly, he's having a town hall I think the 12th or 13th of this month, with CBS National News in Cambridge, Maryland. So they reached out to a friend of mine who runs a fairly large young Republican organization and asked her if she would be helpful in getting young Republicans to come to this event, this town hall, to ask questions. Now, not regular Republicans, just the young ones. And CBS National is in New York. They have no idea about the geography of Maryland. So when she reached out to me about it, I said, Cambridge? You know, Cambridge is Dorchester County, it's Eastern Shore. Why would Wes Moore be coming to the Eastern Shore? It makes no sense. And then I thought about it. Oh, yeah, it's Black History Month. And Cambridge has the first African-American settlement, you know, in Maryland, right? And a storied history about Black people fighting for better jobs and equality and all of that. If you've noticed, his last 5 or 6 comments have been about him being the first Black to do this, him being Black and doing that. Black, Black, Blackity Black. And now he's going to Cambridge to try to talk this same foolishness. So it's going to be an interesting day. CBS National is not exactly what we would call open media. So anyone who wanted to participate, anyone who wants to ask a question has to be fully vetted. And of course, you can't ask him a question about the lies about his family history. He would probably spin it anyway. He would probably say, well, you know, people in your family tell you stories that may not necessarily be true. Kind of like he did about his military career.
Yeah. Shelly, what are your thoughts?
Okay. This man makes me sick. Okay. Literally. He makes me sick like a female bitch. That's what he reminds me of. That's how he makes me sick. You know how some females, I can think of maybe 1 or 2 that I just don't like them. That's how he's like a female, like a male female version, if you will, however you say it. That's number 1. Number 2, since Wes Moore, the other Wes Moore, he has been lying since he wrote that book. Since he said he was born or raised in Baltimore when it was in New York in some elite schools, he has lied about his military service. Okay, this is nothing more. He makes up these stories, and I don't even know why he has to make them up because, like you said, Nicole, millions of people here just love him. Okay. He probably is lying. He probably got some damn prosthesis to make his ass so big. Okay?
Oh, I think he's got a vagina. I am waiting for him to part the lip.
Bottom surgery. Maybe he does. Okay. But this man, that's all. And he's so phony. Even relaying the story, you don't even get a sense of wow. You know what I mean? I know older people. I see older people almost every day, and they might have stories, you know, when I was young and back in my day, and the stories are kind of gripping, if you will, right? You're like, wow, y'all, you know, you don't even get that sense from him. Okay, he is making this up. Okay, his grandfather, whomever it was, went for a damn job in Jamaica. That's where he went. He went to go to work. I mean, why do you have to add all the sensationalism around?
Oh, wait, but here's the thing. His grandfather went home for work. He went back to where he's from. He made it sound like he was chased to another nation with his kids in tow, and there was a burning cross and dudes on horses and all that. No, sir. No, sir.
According to this same article, I'm sorry, in the Free Beacon, supposedly, I think it was 2006, I think, or whatever, he had written a thesis, supposedly, that he never turned in. And then he was supposed to be this expert on radical Islam. This man makes up. This is why I say his wife, Dawn, she's not even impressed by him. But see, she can't come out and say that, because if she comes out and says that, she would be, you know, the Black woman complaining, but she knows he's fake too. She looks bored when she's with him. She looks totally bored when she's standing next to him. He doesn't even get her riled up.
Well, we will see, folks. We will see. It's not the end of this stuff, though, folks. Before we go on and let you know the rest of this, let's get to the super chatters here.
All right, let's see what super chats say. All right, we have Carolyn again. Thank you for your $5 super chat. You ladies are such a blessing to me. I appreciate your perspectives. Love you all. Thank you, Carolyn. Love you.
Appreciate you.
All right, who else do we have? Kung Fu, CJ, for your $2 super chat, and one of our mods and one of our members. Thank you, Kung Fu. He says, "Oh, Shelly E, you so mean." Kung Fu, he is sickening. I know he's sickening. Ron, damn, I think I'm sorry.
Rhonda.
Thank you. Rhonda, I'm
Rhonda
sorry,
McCarroll.
Rhonda, I'm running everything together. Thank you for your $5 super chat and for being a member of our Freedom Club. She says, hello, ladies, and love you guys. Thank you, Rhonda. We love you too.
Rhonda.
Yes, indeed. Thank you all so much. All right. And folks, you can also, if you aren't able to super chat, we do have Cash App. So that's a great way to support the channel as well. We will put the Cash App link for you all to take a look there. So if you're unable to super chat, you can always Cash App us right there. It's at the bottom there. Cash App. Be More Pop Stars is the name. Be More Pop Stars. All right. Let me see here. Yeah, thank you all so much. We really appreciate you. All right. So I want to keep this train going and want to dig deeper into this, folks, because it's not just the lies about his ancestry and his family history. Those are small things, honestly. But he's allegedly lied about some really pretty big things. And so tonight we want to dig into what may be one of the most brazen government cover-ups in Maryland history. Mm-hmm. And surprise, surprise, it all centers around the Democrats, bureaucracy, and our tax dollars. Okay, so this story didn't come from, right-wing bloggers or the internet. It came from mainstream media. Wow. The Baltimore Sun, working alongside Fox 45. And what they uncovered is explosive. Okay, multiple whistleblowers inside Maryland's Department of Human Services are alleging that state officials intentionally inflated SNAP error rates to dodge massive federal penalties that could have cost taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. Take a look here. This is clip 7.
Governor, you said an investigation took place into SNAP allegations. Who conducted that investigation? When did it conclude? And when do you plan to fulfill your promise to release its findings?
Well, I think we've seen the results. The results.
Where?
The results are that when I first became the governor, Maryland had the second highest SNAP error rate in the entire country. That since I've become the governor, we are now down 60%. 60, amongst the fastest drop in the entire country. And in addition to that, we are committed through this next process to make sure we're continuing to drive down the SNAP error rate, making sure that we have a sustainable SNAP system and making sure we have a system that actually can support people has been something that we've been focusing on. And so I think the results are the results. We went from second worst in the country to now having amongst the fastest drop in SNAP error rates.
So, Governor, investigation didn't take place then, is what you're saying?
I think the results show that any type of accusation that there was an artificially high manipulation is not accurate because it didn't happen.
All right. So, ladies, can one of you explain what actually, because he's kicking the can down the curb, but I want to make sure the audience understands what he did. Do you all? Okay.
Yeah. What he did was, because Maryland had a high error rate, he said he was going to do a report, an investigation, and produce the results. Well, he hasn't produced the results. There has been no investigation. What he is saying here, which doesn't really make sense, he said since he's been in office, that error rate has declined by 60%, okay? To now we have one of the lowest. Well, if there was no need to do it, then why was there such a decline? He's saying it doesn't need to be an investigation because it didn't happen. Well, then why was there such a 60% decline if there was no high error rate from the beginning? This man, he makes up stuff on the go. He's sickening. I mean, Nicole, oh my God. The SNAP error rate is reported that, I forget what the actual number was, but above 6%, if you will, above more than 6% error, there's some built-in flexibility or built-in cushion for error rates for all the states. Above and beyond that number, that percentage, it tends to intimate fraud. You're giving away money to people who don't need it, not giving away money to people who do need it. You're giving away more than they need, things like that. Well, Maryland was doing that. I say because they're basically buying people with SNAP benefits. Let me say it. I want my money back. I want my money back. Give me my money back. Maryland is I think Maryland is the second fraudulent state outside of Minnesota.
So wait, Nicole, when he's talking about this SNAP error rate, So basically, there was a high SNAP error rate, because I remember reading the headlines, saying that our state had one of the highest error rates in the country, and now he's saying that has calmed down without any investigation. But when they say SNAP error rate, what does that actually mean?
So when they say SNAP error rate, these are administrative errors, right? This is not them, creating people and giving a false SNAP card to somebody. So roll back the tape. The thing that makes me crazy with him is he gives you a nugget of truth wrapped in a lie, and then he fries it in some bullshit and tells you it's dinner. So
wait, before you see what he did, my sister does this when she lies. I'm gonna put you on something. She starts to stutter a little bit. So he did this thing where he was like, and he did and she talks from the side of her mouth. Well, no, but you saw the investigation. The man is clearly lying.
There was no need for an investigation. And let me tell you why the error rate was high. Remember, when he came into office, we were coming out of COVID, right? So the error rate was high because state workers didn't go to work. You guys remember that? The only person who went to work was me. I was the only person. I had the whole beltway to myself. I was the only person going to work. Everybody else was at home, chilling, having private parties in warehouses. My black self was working, okay? State workers were, quote unquote, working from home. They barely work in the office. So, when they got to work from home, they weren't paying attention. They were making the mouse move, having their kids move the mouse every 15 minutes so they could still collect the check. So the error rate was incredibly high because this type of job doesn't require a lot of free thought. It does require, however, attention to small detail, like data entry, right? Attention to detail. Well, this is not what people had during COVID. People didn't have attention to detail. People was, who was popping back then? Meg Thee Stallion. Everybody was looking for Meg's new song, and people was like, "We can get liquor to go. I'm going to the store and get me some." I mean, Maryland's eyes were on something else. So the error rate was really high, and it wasn't because Larry Hogan was a bad governor. It's because error rates in every state were outrageously high because nobody was working at work. Everybody was trying to work from home, right? Then COVID's over. Here comes Wes Moore. The state workers go back to work. Their attention is back on their job. So the error rate dropped naturally. It did not require an investigation. If there were an investigation, they would have shown that people who work from home don't really work. They don't, especially when they're doing data entry. They do not. We know this definitively. Did you try to call a state agency during COVID? Good luck with it. You probably still on hold if you tried to call a state agency during COVID. So this is what he was trying to say. The truth of the matter was we did not do an investigation. That's what he should have led with. Right. And then he could have given this explanation. You remember we were coming out of COVID and these numbers dropped naturally. Shout out to the people who work in state government, who came back to work, who got on top of the job and brought this error rate down. Now, our error rate for SNAP is different from our error rate when you talk about Medicaid. Our error rate for Medicaid is still very high. It's above.
Oh, that's what I saw, the Medicaid error rate. Okay.
Yeah. So every time the federal government gives you money, they want to make sure that you're spending it appropriately, right? Yeah. So what he should have done is had an audit. He should have audited SNAP. He should audit Medicaid to figure out where these administrative errors are happening. So what he discovered is what I just said when they figured out why we have a 6% error rate is because they didn't have enough qualified workers. They just hired people who were Democrats because that's what happens when state government flips, right?
What? So wait a minute. So because Fox is reporting that this was intentional. So this is what I'm confused on. Okay. They're saying that former senior DHS officials are whistleblowing this.
Yes.
So what?
They're saying the whistleblowers have said that they kept the rate artificially high or intentionally high because after a certain point, you're supposed to pay some of that money back. Okay.
Right.
But if you don't have the money, the gap that's there, like, so the money that you're supposed to have is not there, then you can file for an extension however far out to pay that money back so that it doesn't come out of your state budget. So basically they were keeping it high. Yes. And also when it's high, it also in one instance, it also gives you, I guess, some claim that you have more people who actually need help. So therefore, you can use that. You can use it that way to say, no, it's high because we have more people, not because we're committing fraud or because so many people. Remember, I say all the time, when you apply and you are eligible for one program, you can apply and be eligible for them all. So there's also systemic errors that increase that, because many of these people, you apply for SNAP, you approved. Well, then that means you qualify for a whole slew of programs all across the board, which also inflates your error rate because you have so many people on all of these public programs. All of these things feed in, everybody. Don't think, I mean, yeah, it's one program we're talking about, but don't think that it's only one. These programs are like feeders for other programs and other money, government money, federal money, taxpayer money, which is why we should want our money back. Wes Moore did not do the audit that he called for, that he's supposed to have called for. He did not do it. Now he's saying that the error rate has been reduced by about 60%. Okay. Well, if then he says so we didn't need it. Well, if it was no need to do it, then why did it reduce 60%?
So you're saying that he waited. They waited to fix it.
Absolutely.
They waited so they wouldn't have to do the audit to go back, and the audit's supposed to list, how it happened, what happened, what systems were. He doesn't want to list all that, because you know why he doesn't want to list all that? Because I believe, this is my never to be humble opinion, he doesn't want to list all that because now if it's not written, well, he can use those same things again to make it go back higher and get more money for the programs, other people. So it's like a swing. He wants to use it to his advantage and then use it to get more federal money, because his other argument is that Trump has, withheld or taken a whole lot of money, particularly from federal workers, and Maryland has lost money because of Trump and all this stuff. Wes Moore is bleeding Maryland dry.
Yeah, $240 million. I mean, there are potentially federal penalties that estimate up to $240 million. It may be more. So this is $240 million the taxpayers have to pay.
Right. Those are only the penalties. 240 million. Those are only the penalties. That's not the actual loss of money.
What's interesting is, KJ, I think one of the reasons why they took their sweet time about getting their administrative house in order is because now he can do what he's saying. When I came in, it was a mess, and I dropped it 60%. If you plan to run for a higher office, you need something to run on across this nation other than you being Black. Black might get you some of the Black vote, but it ain't going to get you all of the vote, right? But being Black and being able to corral SNAP and Medicaid, oh, this guy is the truth. He's not the truth. He's not the truth.
It's the same playbook. I mean, we saw this with the COVID funds, unemployment fraud, the migrant aid spending. I mean, the list goes on. They continue to push this grift, but change it slightly from state to state, from city to city, from mayor to mayor. I mean, it's the same thing, folks. We got to vote these people out. We really do.